Hi all, this is John from Axelium International, and I'm here today to show you the program that we've designed for Teleperformance based on the problem-solving workshop. I'm not going to show you the full deck to save you some time. I'm just going to walk you through the methodology that we are going to use, show you some games that we are going to play, as well as the slides and the videos. So please keep in mind that in the actual session, there will be a producer, so all transitions from slides to the games and etc. will be smooth, and there won't be any gaps like I'm just going to show you. So let's start with introducing you the outline of the whole process for today. And let me start by sharing my slides, as you can see here. Welcome to the problem-solving workshop. We are going to deliver this into two different separate 1-hour Zoom session, which will be interactive by using the chat button, as well as playing games together and showing the slides. We will start by opening the session and introduction to Axelium's methodology. And then we will go deep into today's workshop subject, which is problem solving. And then we will play a game called Move It, designed by Axelium. And then after that, we'll come back and we will discuss the thinking concepts and the thinking tools for problem solving, which we can apply into to our daily lives. And then we'll make a conclusion and recommendations for further practice. Okay. So let's go by start with the Axelium's methodology, the learning stages that we would like to call as. The process starts by learning a fun and challenging game and practicing its principles. We then continue by learning game strategies that develop our capacity to make decisions, solve problems, collaborate, and etc. The third step transfers concepts learning that are learned in the game context into day-to-day situations, such as like marketing, development, human resource management, or even especially for call center problems and the like. The objective of learning by means of games is to connect between the moves required in games and their real-life application. The player learns that understanding a game situation or position and constructing strategic long-term plans for it on the board are not that quite different from devising plans for coping with real-life situations. And at the end of the process, this awareness that we want to create enables the participant, the learner, to apply the tools acquired to any area of life, and especially for their business. So the system, our ultimate goal, is to be able to transfer our newfound strategies and insights from the context of the game into real-world situations and dilemmas. In order to do so, we need to critically examine our learning process and reflect upon our thinking patterns. This process relies on constantly asking questions along the way, getting feedback, and mediating between our inner world and what we call the outside world, or the business world, or the business dilemmas that we are facing with. So let's start by showing you a video. Today's workshop is about problem solving. Let's watch a video that humorously illustrates the need for problem solving skills. Now I'm going to stop sharing and then switch to the video. Again, all of these things will be quite smooth, since we're going to have a separate producer that are producing these. So let's start with showing my screen, and here we go.
1 minute, please. Time, thank you. Please put down your pens and bring your papers to the front. sorry, too late. 24 at that time.
Do you know who I am?
Absolutely no.
That's a great and creative way to solve this problem, isn't it? All right, then let's go and move forward with the current situation that are happening in our lives, right? How would you define this problem? In your chat box, please respond. Was it big or small, complicated or simple, right? Let's see your chat responses. Thank you. Quite simple. Yeah, a lot of creativity. All right, that's great answers. Thank you very much. Okay, good problem solving skills can improve our lives as well as the lives of those around us. If you think about it, we weren't able to benefit from many advantages of modern life offers if it weren't for those problem solvers who faced difficulties and basically overcame them. Our current quality of life and all the progress that we see today are all a result of successful problem solving. All of you, the whole Teleperformance team, are basically problem solvers. That's how you create value. However, not all the problems are the same. Let's see the difference between a couple of different problems, shall we? Again, I'm switching to the problem solving slides. All right. Problem solving is quite common, even when we are not aware of it. The problems we face come in all shapes and sizes. Hardly a day goes by without presenting with problems to solve. Well, not all problems, as we've just seen, are complicated, like finding a cure for one's disease or another, and not at all problems require the same level of attention. However, we tend to automatically solve minor problems relying on previous experience. But it does not necessarily mean that it's always easy to come up with good or the most efficient solutions. We can do trial and error, but it will lose a lot of time and maybe customers. Being creatures of habit, we may resort to less efficient yet familiar situations. Today's workshop will change us to deal with complex problems, the ones that their solution is not immediate nor easy for us to spot. Okay. Now, we are going to go through a digital experience now, and I'm going to show you the game bit, which is quite easy. You can share my screen and you can see it. The whole thing is called Move It, and the objective is to get the mover, which is called Jill, who is called Jill, out of the room by moving furniture and clearing a path to the door. Okay, let's start with that square box that we see over here. Basically, it can be moved to any place. Square items, which consists only one, which occupies only one box, can move up, down, and to the sides, and we can move them wherever you like, however much how much we want as well. Furnitures, which takes up to 2 squares, can only move along their axis. As you can see, this is a horizontal one, so it can move to the left or right, 1 box further or 3 box further, it really doesn't matter. 3 square furnitures moves in the same way as well, okay? Although in this instance, this is a vertical one and it can only go up and down, okay? Jill, our hero, takes 2 squares, as you can see, so he can only move along his axis, which is left to right. In order to get him out of the room, we'll just swipe to the right, and we sometimes can move him temporarily if needed, okay? Quite simple, huh? You learned the rules of the game. Now let's start solving problems. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Let's start with an easy challenge to warm up. Let's move the obstacles out of the way so the mover can exit the room. You can send your suggestions in the chat box whenever you're ready. Okay, let's go. So as you can see, Jill is there. There are some obstacles on our way. Let's hear for your recommendations. What shall we do? Please write down in the chat box. All right. Yeah, move up the blue couch, but we cannot move it upwards. So yes, exactly. Thank you very much. We can move the square couch here, and then we are able to move the red one or the border one to the left, all the way to the left. And then we freed up the space. We got a good move. Thank you very much. And then move the piano wherever we like. And basically, Jill is available to get out of the room. Quite easy, huh? Well, good. First of all, you have identified a fundamental condition, a need which is needed for a solution. Vertical furniture that takes up 3 squares and blocks the exit must go down. This is our goal. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now let's go with another challenge. Okay, please note that in order to move one piece of furniture, you need to clear another piece from its path. Okay, let's see. This is the situation. Okay, what would you do if you were me? What would be the first piece that needs to be moved away in order to get Jill out of the room? Let's hear your suggestions. Okay, reading from the chat box. Wonderful. Yep, exactly. Let's move this box out of the way first, right? So that we can move this as well as the table that has the pizza on it, right? It's quite easy then to move these 2 couches and let Jill out of the way. That's excellent. Well done. Great. But keep in mind, as I've told you, trial and error is not a very, very effective way of solving problems. Okay. For each problem that we have, or for each obstacle, we should always ask this question: where should we move it and what's blocking it? Meaning, in real life, how can we solve this, and what is in front of it, what is blocking it? Okay, as you can see in this instant, it was the box that needs to be out of the way. Okay, in the next challenge, there's a strong dependence between the furniture. Right? Let's see. It's a little bit more complicated. Okay, assess the situation. Ask yourself questions, please, and see how we can deal with this situation. First of all, let's ask, what is the main obstacle in our way? Yep, the purple furniture that has shoes on it. And how can we fix this? How can we do that? If we were to move the drawers to the left, that won't solve us the problem. So we should do something different. Let's think a little bit backwards, okay? So this needs to go down, right? So we start by pushing the couch with guitar up to the very end, and then move this, and then do that, right? And then maybe do this, right? So Jill is in a prime position. Then what? What are we going to do, right? We need to put all of the furniture back into their original position. So we move this to the left, to the up side, and then all the way to the left. There's one more obstacle that is on our way. And if we were to move this into the original position, Jill is out of the way. That's pretty cool. Well, but as you can see, it's not always possible to solve problems all at once. Imagine that you're eating a huge burger or a veggie burger if you're a vegetarian, right? It's sometimes necessary to proceed with great care and solve the problem in small steps. Remember, you can always solve the challenges again, and if you want, you can play this on your own. Make sure that you click on the map icon, the link that we are going to provide to you, and select the desired challenge whenever you like. Right? So let's go with the next challenge. All right. This is a little bit more complicated than the other one, but you're getting good at this, so I know. Okay, assess the situation and please write down the first 3 moves that you think that it's the best solution to get Jill out of the room. Okay, and again, ask a couple of questions. What is our objective? What's the obstacle that is in front of our objective? Where can it be moved and how can we move it? Right? Now I'll give you a minute to think about it rather than trial and error. Please think strategically or plan as much as possible. Okay. So for the ones who are listening at the moment, what I'm trying to do is to give them some time, give the participants some time to assess the situation and get used to the fact that all the problems cannot be solved at once. That's my main goal here. So they will respond in the chat. Maybe they will do some errors. That's fine. I'll probably, use their suggestions and fail. And it's going to be an interactive one since we need some trial and error just to get to learn about the whole stuff that we're going to discuss. So if we were to move the boxes down the way, we can actually move Jill back a bit, okay? And then move this, that, and that again. Since the whole idea is to get the green couch out of the way. So now that the bicycle is free, we can get rid of it, right? And then simply work our way all the way through and Jill is out of the way. Challenging, right? Well, this is a classic example of a system problem. What do we mean by system problem? The dependencies between the problem's components create a logical loop that makes it challenging to locate the first step to the solution. Now, if we don't find the first step to the solution, that's when we lose time. And in real life, imagine that you are dealing with a client who has a problem. And if we don't find the right, correct first step to the solution, then we might lose precious time, which means that we are spending more time with the client than we should. This is an effectiveness problem. And the second thing is the client's perspective about, whether we can solve his problem or not, okay? System problems are actually characterized by significant dependence between the parts of the system, of the parts of the problem. When one part stops functioning, the whole system weakens or collapses, stops being efficient, and sometimes even stops altogether. The solution is to identify what we call the core of the problem, the main factor, the main part or the heart of the problem that has the most significant impact on the other parts of the problem. Okay? Identifying the core of the problem will be actually done in 3 steps. The first step in identifying the core of the problem is to understand the system. Or in other words, we call this problem analysis. And all analysis in life are done by asking questions. First of all, a very simple but very powerful question: what are the needs, wishes, or the goals, whether from a client's perspective or from our perspective? What is the difference between what is wanted and what is actually found? What are the obstacles and what are the requirements? Now, if you want, you can take a screenshot of this part. These are the very useful questions that we can ask for any kind of problem. Okay. Before starting to move, let's put it into practice. You should systematically analyze the problem, set the main goal, identify the obstacles next. Okay. Let's see. Wow, this is a very crowded room, isn't it? Okay. Let's see how that goes. Think about the problems that we have. And I have another question for you. As you can see, there are a lot of elements in the system, like piano and the skateboard and everything. One of the first questions that we should ask ourselves and challenge, do we need to deal with them at once? All right. And in this instance, is that the case? Okay. Let's see how we can deal with the situation. Where shall we start? What is the right first step? Is it the piano? Is it the skateboard couch? Is it the drawers? What is it? Please respond in the chat box. Very well, thank you. This is where I get answers and everything. And imagine that I have an answer pushing the drawers to the right so that we can move this upwards and then basically get these out of the way and move Jill a little bit forward and push the drawer all the way to the left. Okay. And if we get the PlayStation table out of the way, as you can see, Jill can get out, right? So when you think about it, we didn't move the piano, we didn't move this coffee table, we didn't move this couch, and we didn't change this table, okay? So when we think really hard and find the first step, it's actually easier to solve that problem, right? It's easier to focus on one obstacle at a time and clear it. As you can see, this was a 4-step approach. If we didn't use the tools that we have discussed, or if we didn't challenge the situation, we might have ended up trying to deal with the piano and everything, and then we could have solved this problem in, I don't know, 15 moves or something. Now let's stop for a minute and play the game. And let's go back to the problem-solving bit, or the things that we have discussed, okay? First concept is end-to-beginning planning, okay? And this is how we are going to do it. I'm going to share my screen again as a virtual background. There you go. All right. So the problem-solving thinking concepts actually starts with the first thing that I've discussed, end-to-beginning planning. This is the first and foremost tool that we would like to use, okay? We need to start from our desired end game. What does success look like? This is a very, very important question. What do you want to solve today? What do you want to achieve? What's your goal? So in this instance, as you can see, this seems quite easy, but it's quite hard, okay? The question would be, what will be the last move in our solution? If you have any answers, please write down in the chat box. Exactly, in all of the challenges, the last move will be Jill leaving the room, right? Now, let's plan backwards, okay? In this instance, where should we move the blue sofa just before Jill leaves the room? Yeah, exactly. It's easy to see that it has to move downwards. You can continue with the same line of thinking and use end-to-beginning planning regarding the necessary moves. By using end-to-beginning planning, we're also breaking the problem down to smaller parts, just like the big hamburger that I told you about, which is our second thinking concept. By asking systematically questions that we can set our secondary objectives. Again, what is our main objective? Again, in all of the challenges, the goal is to lead Jill out of the room, right? Then we need to identify what are the obstacles along the way. The blue sofa, in this instance, that blocks the exit. We need to figure out where to move the obstacles. If we want to clear up the way, we have to move the blue sofa downwards. This is the second objective, secondary objective. We know that we need to move the blue sofa downwards. But as you can see, the pool table is blocking its way. So the question is, where should we move the pool table? Have any answers to that? Let's see from the chat. This is where I again see the answers, read them out loud, maybe try them, and etc. And then I go back to explaining, saying that that is another secondary goal on our way to the solution. The further we analyze and break down this position, we can set more secondary objectives, as many as we want, on our way to the final solution, like the following. The purple sofa needs to be on the upper part of the board, as you can see. As you can see, each secondary objective is actually a smaller problem than the original one. It is easier to deal with, and its resolution gets us closer to our final solution. Okay. However, again, the important part is when the starting point is unclear. Okay. When solving in our game's challenges, the main difficulty is figuring out which piece of furniture we need to move or to focus on first and where we should move it. By end-to-beginning planning, we can also define constraints or blocks. Okay? When looking from a certain point forward, the range of possible moves is quite wide. On the other hand, by looking backwards or from end-to-beginning solution, the range of possible moves becomes smaller and smaller, and therefore simplifies the process. That is the key to end-to-beginning solution approach. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a move that has been made, I think 2015. It's called The Martian. Maybe you have watched it. The film takes place in 2035. Okay, it's in the future. The spaceship on a mission to explore Mars gets caught in a fierce sandstorm, having lost all communications with fellow astronaut Mark Watney, which is Matt Damon. The crew, the main ship's crew, comes to the conclusion that their comrade is dead and decides to leave the planet. So Matt Damon is all alone by himself. So when Watney, the character, regains consciousness and realizes that he's sustained injuries, which have also disabled his vital sign transmitter, he succeeds to make his way back to the living module, which can sustain life for a month. While Watney remains unable to contact anyone, he remains is aware of the fact that the next mission to Mars will reach the planet in 4 years. That's where he decides to put his talents as a machine engineer and as a botanist to good use and to do whatever it takes to survive through all the difficulties. Now, let's watch the movie bit just a little bit to understand how he approaches the problem. Okay, and here we go. Let's see. That's day 70. And that is exactly what you're going to do after being on Mars, all right? Well, just to give you an example and to beginning planning in everyday life, this is a great example of John F. Kennedy's space program speech that he has made in May 1961, before he died. He says, we choose to go to the moon, right? We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because that they're easy, but they're hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, and one which we intend to win. Just imagine back in the day, the Cold War were at its peak, in its heyday, and they need to beat the Soviets because they were far ahead. And he explains actually that this task is to send a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, 100 meters tall, the length of a football field, made of new metal alloys, which have not yet been invented, and capable of standing heat and stress, never been experienced, fitted together with a precision better than the finest watch, on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, which is moon, and then return it safely to Earth with the humans inside it. And he explains, in order to do this and do it right and do it first before this decade is out, they must be bold. So now, when you think about this, he's actually telling what success looks like. Okay, we need to send a man to the moon, bring him back safely, and we need to do it before the Soviets does. And we need to do this before 1970. Now, when you start working backwards through this problem, because it's a huge problem, these are the things that have not been invented, they were able to break down the problem, actually, right? And handle several smaller problems, such as like, how are we going to build a 100-meter long rocket? Or how are we going to build alloys that stands the pressure and the heat when we're coming back to the Earth, right? An effective way to break an issue down is simply by asking questions. Okay. By identifying the real obstacles in our path, we'll be able to set new secondary objectives. So there will be a lot of breaking a problem down in everyday life, whether it's writing a code, as you know, it's called the agile approach, or a shuttles launch, or medical diagnosis, which in the actual workshop, I'm going to give one example that is related to call center, to their daily lives, right? And then we will go back again to digital experience. We'll use the Accelium system to practice some more problem-solving thinking tools, and come back and talk about the problem-solving thinking concepts, like asking this situation, which is quite complicated, asking what is the primary objective, what are the obstacles on the way, and so on, and walk them through via chat option. Imagine this is a webinar at the end of the day, so they will be able to write down their answers into chat. And then we will find the solution, okay? And then we're going to introduce another thinking concept, which is the third one. The first one was end to beginning. The second one was breaking down the problem. And the third one is what we call the temporary parking process, or the concept, okay? This is a useful tool to solve problems with interdependent components one by one. We need to stop in order to move forward. We need to think. So speed is important, but agility is more important. That's our message. And then I'm going to give them real life examples that are related to their work again. And then I'm going to share them a story, which is quite interesting, that has happened in 1912, I believe, the race to the South Pole, when they had two teams that competes against each other, who will reach the South Pole first. Scott versus Amundsen, which I'm not going to reveal the answer to. Maybe you know this, but maybe you can come and watch in the real workshop. And then after the whole process, the first hour, and then the next day another hour, we will have a conclusion bit where we are going to talk about what we have learned, whether, how to clearly define the problem. We'll revisit end-to-beginning analysis, breaking down the problem, temporary parking, asking questions, and time, which is a constraint in our business and also leads up to our second workshop, which is performance under pressure, which will be quite like this, but with different games, different examples, and different concepts. But the whole idea is designed based on three things: is play, learn, and try to adapt this into our real world. So that would be the whole workshop that we are going to present. It's going to be presented in English in a studio with producers. I hope that this gave you a brief information or an understanding how we are approaching the problem or the concept of the problem-solving workshop. Thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. My name is John from Axiom again, and I wish you a great day without any problems. Bye-bye.